Alright guys, my name is Neil Barenblatt from neilbarenblatt.com and welcome to the best After Effects tutorial of your lives. Except not really. Even though this is cool. Like, a lot of people want to know how to do fire, and I think this is pretty decent. It's not amazing, but it is fire, and it takes about 5 minutes. So there's your fire. It's pretty cool. You know, doesn't take long at all. As you can see, there are only 2 layers, so not a lot to worry about. And since this is a tutorial, let me show you how to do it. So composition, let's make a new one. Now this looks fine, who cares? Except we'll name it fire, because we're creative. And that's what After Effects and motion graphics people are, creative. And we're gonna make a new solid, something pretty. Pink or magenta will do. We'll name it Fire Bubbles, and you will see why. So what we're going to do, I told you we're not using particular or anything like that, but we are going to use Particle World. It's all done with particles, of course. So we drag it there, and we can see that that is total crap. And we're not going to use it anymore. We're going to turn the floor off, and we're going to, basically, we're going to jump around a little bit just so I can kind of explain why we're doing what. First, we're going to go into the physics, and what we want is for our particles to go up, and they're going to kind of swirl, but you won't be able to tell. And that's because we're going to use the vortex instead of explosive. And so now we don't need to mess with, you know, I take that back. We're going to mess with gravity. I'm a liar. Let's change it to 0. Ah! Okay. So 0 gravity. Let's pull it down. Go to the producer tab and take position Y. Just pull it down. We're going to want to make them into bubbles, hence the name. There's the spoiler kicker. So now we have these bubbles. Increase the birth rate to about 30. Right now we're just trying to give it some volume. And you'll see eventually why I turn the gravity down, all of that stuff. We're going to want to put the velocity, right now it's at 1. We want to make it more like 0.2. And so now, because there's not as much velocity, it's all clumped together without making ridiculous amounts of particles. And the gravity's off, so it's letting it go up a little more. If we had the gravity at 1 or something like that, it's really going to push it down. So it really needs to be at like 0, not even negative. And the reason we don't need it at negative is because if you do it at negative, it's going to start stretching it out and thinning it. And that's not what we want. What we want to do to make it go a little higher is to increase the longevity, which is the time, the life of the particles. So, you know, do that. Move this a little up. And we can, I think we should make the radius of the X a little more in the Y. So yeah, I'd say that's really good. A few more things before we move on is we want the birth size to be significantly larger than the death. And I found that like 0.4 against 0.05 is pretty good. And you can start to see how it fades a lot up top. Size, I like variation, so sue me. And you're going to want to take the max opacity down to like 25. Because if you have it up at a high rate, like that's just not right. So you want to get it down to like 25. And you can start to see things fading a lot, but you're still saying to yourself, that looks like shite. Doesn't look like, you know, fire at all. So what I found is to blur the crap out of it. And apparently if you type in effects backwards, they don't show up. So we want fast blur. And I use fast blur because fast just implies speed to me. I don't know, sue me. So put it on. Put it at about a 12. And now we can see like this looks kind of like fire, except really blurry and with like absolutely no detail. And we want that to change. So what we're going to do is duplicate this layer and rename it to fire. Oh, I already got fire. Polys. And whatever could that mean? Motion polygons. Exactly. It's all so clear now. Change that to about 2. And so now you can see there's a lot of detail added. I don't know if it makes a difference, but I like to think it does. If you go into the options under rendering and force the motion blur on these babies, Nah, maybe it doesn't. Anyway, we can see a lot more detail. We don't want that much, so I go into the opacity and bring it down to about 50. Yeah, that's better. And also, you want the depth size with these things to be like a lot bigger than the birth size, and you can see that that's creating like a cool effect for the top of the fire. So now if we kind of scroll through it, yeah, I mean, that looks like we're on the road to some pretty decent fire. You know, after a little more tweaking, maybe bringing some opacities up or down, you know, that, I mean, that looks pretty similar to that. Actually, it looks almost exactly like it. So there you have it. That is fire in After Effects. That took what, like 3 minutes, even though I'm not timing this at all. But good luck. You'll use your imagination to figure out what to use it for, because God knows I haven't, because I figured it out 10 minutes ago. Literally, so give me a break. Thanks for watching. Hopefully I'll make another one if I can ever figure out something as cool again. Go to neilbarenblatt.com. Thanks again.